Awesome. Well, most of us were together just not even a week ago, a couple days ago. So we do want to give at least a high level overview for all of our team, especially anyone that watches the recording after tonight. Just some takeaways, obviously, coming off of such an amazing experience in DC, but I do have some state updates too that I can kind of reiterate and expand upon from our weekly emails. So Leo will be back next week. He comes back from paternity leave on Monday, so a week from today. We will have Leo back, but we were able to catch up today, which was really special. So he had reached out and asked if I just had a couple minutes during little one's nap time to catch up and kind of prep him as he is getting ready to jump back into things after being out a month. So on the state level, I don't have a ton of updates on biomarker testing. There still is a bit of an oddness on at the state house on who is reporting in and doing committee hearings and who's not. So it's kind of up to the chairs right now through October, going into the election in November, whether or not they want to be present and working. I am grateful that Chair Scott Lips, when it comes to public health, for that House committee, has asked for his committee to come together for hearings where we haven't seen that from insurance for biomarker testing. So that group has not scheduled anything, so we could have a little bit of a lull like we were warned from Leo through October, depending on if the chair changes his mind to bring that group together or not. But hopefully you did see in the Friday update that we have some movement on copay accumulator because Scott Lips did ask that committee to come together, and they had the first hearing with sponsor Rep Manchester, Susan Manchester, presenting before the committee. I really loved her approach. If you didn't watch the recording, definitely take a few minutes to watch it. I know I sent that out in the Friday email, but this bill is being reintroduced exactly as it was last year. So, for those of you that were around last year, you know that it passed through the committee and through the House floor unanimously. So, we are hopeful that now that they're starting the process again this year, that things should move pretty quickly. So they've had that first sponsor hearing, and he's already asked to call for the second proponent hearing in early October. So it could be next Wednesday or the following. Julie and Alik, as two of our copay stories, we have connected. And the second I know when they're going to call that hearing, hopefully we can either have in-person testimony or at least written testimony to submit. Um, so my big request would be if you have heard of any new copay stories when you're out in the community or you've been introduced with people outside of the two that we know, Julie and Alik, please let me know. So as we're kind of going through this process, if we do have some additional news stories to present to the committee to hear, we definitely want to prep more so for the Senate. Like I said, I think we're going to hopefully experience a pretty smooth process through the House again. And so we just kind of want to be ready with our stories and those testimonies for hopefully getting this through to the Senate and working that and maybe getting this bill passed. So things really are looking positive. And so we have through next December. And if we can move through the House pretty quickly here through fall, maybe we can really work the Senate all of next year. So that's kind of our hope and our strategy. And I know Leo can share more when he is back next week. But that is at least what's happened in the last week with Rep Manchester doing the first testimony and the second coming soon for proponents. So definitely stay in tune with the Friday updates. If you have any news stories, share them with Leo and I, and we can kind of work through that as we prep for that second hearing. Any questions about the two legislation for state, biomarker or copay, that I can help answer? And again, Leo will be back, so we'll have him here back on the ground, which will be awesome to have him there in Columbus again. No? Well, federal. I don't want to dive too much into Leadership Summit and Lobby Day, but I do want to take a few minutes to share for those that weren't there who were cheering us on back home in Ohio. I do want to allow just a high level update and some, personal stories or remarks from anyone that was there. Would love for you to get to share as well. I definitely don't want to be the only one to share there, but I do want to start with just my deepest appreciation for everyone that was there and back at home cheering us on and following us on social media throughout that 4 days that we were in DC. I just could not be more proud of Team Ohio. I know that throughout those 4 days, people were coming up to us and saw our just tight-knit group with our name tags and our Ohio headbands on the 70s night that Julie had so graciously made for us that had the logo in Ohio. And just the executives, all the way up to Lisa Lacasse, just had nothing but amazing things to say about our group. And really, that is because of just that family dynamic that we all have. And I'm just really proud of our team and the impact that we made those 4 days. Obviously, we have a lot to celebrate from both the numbers that we're seeing for new co-sponsors from just those few days we've had since then, both for PSA for him and for MSED. I know that's only going to increase across the board because of the almost 700 of us that were there. But also from the fundraising standpoint, hopefully you all saw, if you weren't there in the Friday update, that huge success that we had as a team. We're nearly $30,000 above our goal this year, which is just phenomenal. And to have 3 people in the top 10 at number 10, number 9, and number 1, with Jody for the first time in the top 10 at number 10, Julie breaking the 10,000 mark for the first time in all these years that I know you have been fundraising, and landing at number 9. And then, of course, Vince, for you to take number 1 again. I know it just means a lot and is very special for this entire team. We did show up in cowbells. Whether folks liked it or not, right? I haven't heard any negative responses from any other states, but I think we did surprise some folks that I had 25 cowbells hidden in my backpack and we were ready to celebrate and jump and cheer. And I think we really inspired some people. I really do. I think it showed that, again, camaraderie that we have for our team and the cheering on of our cohesiveness, that it is a team effort across the board, from all the people that raised $200 at that first incentive level all the way to Vince. We truly have a team of teams in Ohio, and I'm just so proud of everyone. But would love to hear from you all that were there. If you have any kind of standout moments that you want to share with the rest of the team, and any wins that you felt are worthy of sharing, again, for the folks here and that will be listening to the recording. I see people going off mute, so who wants to go first?
I will. Hello, hello, hello.
I Miss Carrie.
Um, I think the one thing that stands out in my mind is the last time I was on Capitol Hill, I was with Leo, and we had to walk up that hill. It was 3 words: horrible, horrible. And then once we got up the hill, then you had to go from point A to point B, whatever. But I just want to thank you, Sarah, you and Mark, for orchestrating the fact that we could get from point A to point B in a timely manner. Very helpful, very helpful.
We were very fortunate to have Mark Anderson with our group too, and we did try to do some researching of routes and navigating, especially running from 2 Senate meetings back to back so closely together. So I definitely give kudos to Mark for helping with that too. But thank you to the whole team. Definitely. It was
Thank
very
you.
smooth. I appreciate that.
Sarah, I would say that my standout moment was with the new congressional redraw, having a new congressman and having him sit down and meet with us. And it truly was, for anybody that was in that meeting, I don't think anybody, oh, Tom was in that meeting. It was a nice conversation. It wasn't like we were regurgitating information to him and then just saying, can you support us? It was more of a give and take, casual conversation that we strive to have.
And I'll add that we had only that one meeting scheduled with the member for Rep Mike Carey for Julie's, but then we, by surprise, got to see a lot more staff members than we were expecting, lawmakers. We ended up seeing 6 representatives who were, gracious enough to either pop out pretty quickly for a photo or stop and say a few words, including both the new Senator J.D. Vance. We just quickly caught him in the hallway for a photo, and Sherrod Brown, which is really cool that we got to see both senators for a few minutes and get some photos, but also a handful of our representatives, which was really exciting.
Sherrod Brown in person. I saw that picture. I was shocked. And I'm like, really? Somebody finally saw Sherrod Brown?
Yeah, and he's stopped and talked for quite some time.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, him and Carrie were discussing the book club they got together.
No, I was just reminding him.
I know it. I think if I could go next, I think being able to get into a hearing at the Capitol was my highlight, even though I didn't get to stay for very long. I thought that was pretty cool that we were given the opportunity to sit in on that.
Yeah, so MSED had a committee hearing, and ACS Can was on top of as many blue shirts that could be sitting in the room. If you didn't have a meeting at 10 a.m. to report to room XYZ, they told us, what room it was, and it was definitely a phenomenal response from blue shirts just filling the entire room. So that was a really cool presence. Absolutely.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, hey. For me, it was one of the top 10 best moments of my life. I had an amazing time. I don't even know. If you look at the picture with Sherrod Brown, that'll tell you.
That is so true. Yeah, I don't remember which ones got posted. I think it is the one of you, Christy. I don't remember which one has been across social media, but that is so true. You beaming with your mouth wide open, smiling at Sherrod Brown is picture worthy. Yes.
Christy, I'm hoping that picture wasn't posted either, because that's the one where I'm licking my lips, but it looks like I'm sticking my tongue out at Sherrod Brown. So I'm hoping that one just disappears forever, but I know that it probably won't.
Yeah, me too.
I was wondering what you were doing there, Vince.
I was licking my lips, and it's just like, talk about timing. But
well, Jill and I were still fighting a vending machine, so we didn't even get to that picture. That's a shame.
Same.
The one thing I noticed at this meeting was, and obviously I only was in 4 meetings, but the preparedness of the staff this year, the level to which they already knew things, whether they had things exactly right or not is another debate for another time. But
you mean lawmaker staff, right?
Lawmaker staff.
Yep.
I felt everyone was prepared and they knew what we were discussing. So along with the stories, there wasn't the whole necessity to create the foundation for what the bill is beforehand. So it was nice because it gives you the ability to tell your story and kind of talk beyond just what the bill is, but how can we get support?
I think
I
one thing I would point out is how well the event itself in its entirety was put together. Like, friend, this is from like the ACS staff side. Like, as someone that, with it being my first time, there were so many things that, scenarios that I made up in my mind that were stressing me out, but I was legitimately like felt very prepared beforehand. I felt like everything was a well-oiled machine when we got there, and it made going to Capitol Hill so much less stressful. And only being worried about like the logistics of like how do I get around Capitol Hill was impressive to me. And even then, like we had detailed maps, and thank God for Carrie and Christy because I had no idea what we were doing. But I felt like all the resources that were given to us beforehand and during was top tier. Like you can't beat it, and that makes it much easier to focus on your tasks at hand and really make your message heard when you're not worrying about, do I have enough information? Do I have the resources that I need to do this effectively? So I thought that was extremely impressive.
Or is my belly full?
Yes. And the
Yeah.
food. They do a great
Yeah.
job. Yeah.
Lots of food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I turned into a fangirl for Jamie Raskin. That was my highlight.
Some of those speakers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah.
Roy Blunt did a good job too, but Jamie Raskin.
They did
If you
pick
have not
some
searched Nick's
phenomenal.
podcast yet, please do. I
Oh,
listened to it on the way home from Lorna's house to keep myself awake because I was struggling a little bit and I was dying laughing. So if you think she was great at the event, listen to that podcast where she says like, "Hello, I have cancer." It is freaking hilarious.
so
Who are you
Tig.
talking about? Tig
Tig.
Notaro?
Tig.
Oh, I thought you said Jamie
Tig
somebody.
Notaro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
it was
thought
Tig.
Pam said Jamie.
Yeah.
Yes, I did say Jamie.
Jamie was
Okay.
one of the lawmakers that spoke, that first representative. Yeah, I agree with you, Pam. I think the people that they selected to share with us were really top tier. And I remember, we took a lot of highlights from that. The senator, saying if everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. And I just remember writing in my notebook some kind of sentences that really resonated from a lot of the key speakers that I definitely want to pass along to everyone. So look for more of those in this upcoming Friday email. I didn't want to put too much in this last one, but I do think that there are some lines that were said
There are
that
some great lines.
would be really useful for all of us as we prep for things like Cancer Action Day and other events. So everyone definitely look for some of those to come in our upcoming email Friday, because I think we left with a lot of really impactful statements that we can all take with us.
I do have to say that George's statement of cost and value are two different things was very helpful. Hearing that going into making the funding asks in the meeting. So I had that line, if everything's a priority, then nothing is priority. And cost and value are two different
Cost
things.
specified.
You heard in one of the meeting that you sat in on, Sarah, they work so well together, and it's literally
Yeah.
like it just drives the message home to them. So George, I think his
Absolutely.
name's George, right? Or am I getting his name
The
wrong?
senator.
James. Wasn't it
James.
James?
I don't have my notebook next to me. Yeah, I can send it to everybody. But I remember it was the senator. Yeah. Jody, what about you?
I just took all of those things. Yes, felt those sincerely. Also, just the weight of all of it really caught me this year. Last year it was all new, and I think I was so nervous about what I was doing, and yes, finding everything that it didn't quite hit me as hard as it did this year about the weight of, the voices that we're the voice of people that don't have the time or the ability to speak up for themselves. And then the other part of that hit me was 700 people from all over the country, from Guam, from Puerto Rico, from every state, all are doing the same thing. So even though we've got like our group of Ohioans, which is awesome, but when I think about the number of people in the country, it feels kind of small. But then to see 700 plus people passionate and fighting for the same things that we are, it was it was a big takeaway for me that, we definitely have a strong and powerful voice, and I was really excited and proud to be part of that. But it was just such a large group of people, all, there for the same reason. It was really cool. That's all.
Tom, anything you would add?
Pretty much everything everyone else has brought up has been covered. I mean, the Senator Raskin's speech and that just was amazing, and to know that he's also a cancer survivor and gave us the go ahead and some great quotes and everything. That was fantastic.
So my hope is that we'll get some recordings of some of those things or slideshow decks. I know that they've asked all of us that were in attendance, to provide our feedback already in the event survey, but I think that they do intend on sharing with us staff some of those resources that were given so we can take them to our state teams. So the second we get some of those to be able to share with everyone across all of our Ohio advocates, I will immediately send and put on our Google Drive any of those really great resources and presentations that we were able to watch, just so that all of us can take those with us. Again, we kind of just highlighted and touched on some of them that were impactful, but I really do hope that we'll get those soon and we can all utilize those as we continue to kind of work at the grassroots level, reaching out to all our lawmakers. I know we have a lot of follow-up still for some hopeful co-sponsorships. And so just really proud again of this team. And the weather was beautiful. I will add that helped, right? That it was a little cooler than I know that it has been in some years. And we had a wonderful guest from Canada. Julia was able to shadow us with Lorna from the NAT team. They had global staff that joined, and so it was really kind of cool to get to have Julia from Canada Society with us to shadow and learn from us and take it back. Um, and I just think overall, again, the camaraderie and um, just the things that we have to celebrate, it's all of us coming together. So I just can't thank everyone again enough. For next steps, I think we left with a couple hopeful takeaways for everyone that I do want to share. So our last day together, we kind of did a planning session in our state breakouts. And obviously, we saw a lot of fundraising success this year, being 30,000 over goal. And so you wonder to yourself, how do you keep that momentum and how do we keep growing? And also not killing yourselves on your return on investment and your ROI on how we're approaching fundraising strategy. So I think for us, we definitely want to do some things and just keep expanding on them, like our online store that we had. This year we took a stab at making an Ohio shirt, but I think that we could remove that Ohio outline to some of the products so that they're more accessible to anyone that is in ACS CAN. And I know so many of our states are supporting each other when we have online stores like that, because I know Michigan has a store. Our friends in Kentucky just made a breast cancer shirt that some of us have ordered across, again, because they're just generic ACS CAN. So I think we can expand upon our store going into next year. And I think sponsorship is absolutely going to be something we want to build an even bigger strategy on, because we saw so much success this year. And I'm excited to share. And I would love for Christy and Julie to elaborate a bit more, that we feel pretty confident we're going to be going into next year with a presenting sponsor at $10,000, which is obviously going to amplify a lot for us. So Christy, if you want to kind of share about the Columbus Impact Makers, and Julie, kind of where we think we'll be going in the next year with the presenting sponsor.
Hold on a sec.
You're good. You're good.
Okay. Okay. So actually, I was really curious before I talk. How was the event? Vince, did you meet Chris Kipp on Saturday?
Over the weekend.
I did. Towards the end of the evening, Sarah Wells had the chance to introduce me to Chris Kipp. So I was talking up an upcoming meeting for lunch and just saying, we'd really look forward to getting with you and having further discussions. It was loud and there were a lot of people. So getting too in depth was sort of difficult, but he seemed really excited and enthusiastic about meeting, and of course I inserted myself into a lunch meeting. So
Good.
I said that we'd love to get together and further discuss everything.
Vince suggested a lunch meeting with Christy and I, and we'd love to have you come when we have lunch with him so we can do it as a group.
Yeah. So I guess just to bring everyone else up to speed. So Julie and I attended the Impact Makers event, and that was here in Columbus. And so Chris Kipp, tell me if I'm wrong, Sarah, he's director of American Cancer Society for Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia.
So he's our contact essentially for all of our states, yes, from the James. So
Okay.
he's obviously, he is staff at the James, but he is our kind of direct hand in hand ACS in the James. So any ask that is happening or any partnership that we have with Ohio State, the James, goes through Chris.
Right. Okay. So he also is my director of clinical services, who I have never met. The employees at Ohio State Medical Center and the James, it's just huge. And I'm at an outside clinic, so I've never met him. I know about him. So I was really thrilled when I realized that with Julie, I was going to get to meet him. And I was so glad Julie was with me because I was really nervous, especially when Sarah told me 2 hours ahead of time, like, this is really big. This is a really big thing that I really need you guys to talk up. And I'm like, oh Lord, no, I'm really nervous. So anyway, I think it went really well. And Chris seemed to be very receptive to Julie and myself as far as being a corporate sponsor. So the James being a corporate sponsor for our Lights of Hope next year. And I'm really excited about that too, because I feel like jumping through the hoops and kind of, I don't know, dealing with the red tape as far as setting up my display at the cancer hospital clinic that I'm at was rather difficult. And I realized real quick that I was going to have to get somebody on my side there to help me like dig my way through what I needed to do, because I'm kind of a worker bee. So I reached out to my assistant manager, who she knew all the people that I needed to talk to. And long story short, I ended up getting to have my setup at the Martha Moore House. So he wanted to know more about it. And I actually, Julie and Vince, just formulated an email today, but I haven't sent it because I want you to look over it and to make sure it's okay. But I feel like we need to send this email out to him like now, because it's fresh in his mind. And he met Vince, and then he also knows Sarah, and I don't remember her last name. Wells, yes. And I know they were going to be speaking about it as well. And I feel like we need to get this sent out so that he'll remember us. He'll remember what we're after. But I don't know quite, since I'm new, like how I want to devise this email. So like I said, I come up with something, but I would be very grateful if you would look it over and make sure it's okay and it's what we should be sending.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so much excitement. And I think knowing that the James wants to build upon their partnership they already have so strongly with ACS and support our advocacy efforts is just, yeah, truly remarkable. And I appreciate each of you amplifying that relationship and meeting with Chris Kipp. I've had the pleasure of meeting him once or twice from Pan Ohio years ago, but having you, Christy, join us and being an employee at the James and amplifying our work, and then Julie, Vince, you getting to meet him as well. The more of us that build that relationship, truly is going to just keep expanding upon that, again, connection we can have with the James. To me, it's more than just the sponsorship too. It's building a larger group of advocates that can attend events with us, like the policy forum coming up, like Cancer Action Day. So all of you working these relationships with sponsors adds to that amplification of more people helping us with our um, action alerts when we have them, following us again, attending events like the policy forum in a few weeks, and prepping for Cancer Action Day next year. So outside of just sponsorship, I think that was kind of the large thing that our team talked about overall, was just building our momentum that we had this year on new advocates. So we did share our success, in having almost 90 registered for Cancer Action Day, and how we want to get back to that large ballroom and have more than 100 people next year. And this is where those sponsorship relationships can help us in asking them for support of people attending our events, getting to know us and the work that we do more. So I think that will be kind of a strategic conversation we want to continue into next year, is getting new sponsors, because it is, again, better on your ROI and time spent. I know, Julie, you had a lot of um, concerns this year that you did mention across our group about less individual donors giving to you for your Lights of Hope efforts, but getting $1,000 sponsor, again, $1,000 was 100 bags of people maybe that you had lost of donors this year. And so if we can support each other across the state, coming up with kind of a spreadsheet and a strategy, that is something we want to do in October, because the state house is on this pause that they're having until the election. We really can use October as a time to come together as a team. Anyone that wants to be a part of that, I will create kind of a survey for anyone that wants to be a part of those conversations on building our sponsorship presence and our relationships with companies across the state, because I do think that's what's going to amplify our efforts, not just, again, fundraising, but more supporters and more advocates out in our communities when we need them. So does anyone have anything to add kind of on that takeaway of what our big strategy plans going into 2024 are?
Sarah, I do. A couple of takeaways from the Chris Kipp conversation. Um, and Pam Mingus will probably appreciate this as much as anyone. Tom's been around a while, will understand it too. During our conversation at the Impact Makers in Columbus, I had chatted with Lenora, who is now in charge of all of ACS Ohio. Correct, Sarah?
Our VP, yep.
Yeah. And she indicated that last year they had one of these conversations with Chris Kipp at the James, and he spread his money, a $250,000, over a lot of events in Ohio. And Lenora's comment to me was that we can incorporate a sponsorship for Lights of Hope in our ask. Now, years ago, we were butting heads with ACS staff because we weren't on the same team. We were taking away from each other. And for the VP of Ohio to say, we're going to take $10,000 of our ask and dedicate it to Lights of Hope is big in my mind. And the second thing that was really of interest to me is that Ohio State hospitals have some kind of language in their contract with their staff that allows them release time to advocate for cancer patients and survivors. And Christy and I and Vince will need to kind of go over that with him. But this could be a real avenue to bring a lot of folks to the State House next year.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that was, I feel like it was like an internship thing, Julie. So I feel like there's not going to be a lot of people allowed to do that. It's going to be something that you probably have to apply for. And that I need to put that at the end of my email. I haven't
Yeah.
seen anything posted yet about it, but he said it would be posted, and it's an internship that if there's nurses or other staff that want to be an advocate, that you would be allowed time aside. Yeah, but it's part of an internship, but it's paid, and you can take those hours from my job and apply them to the internship. I
That's
believe.
really
I can't wait to find out what it's all about.
same. Yeah, thank you for following up, continuing that relationship. And I think across the board, again, that will be so helpful for all of us to be able to support each other. So, crafting emails, coming up with wish lists of places and making asks together like this. So, thinking about going to meetings or crafting emails. That's kind of what we want to continue the conversation with going into October, just to really amplify our plans before we set goals going into next year, for fundraising efforts. And I will add that today, just to kind of put a bow on that, we did have another all staff meeting for Ohio, West Virginia when it comes to our area plans. And I think we're going to see even more than just this $10,000 presenting sponsorship when it comes to our ACS friends and colleagues supporting our efforts, helping us with accounts that they're already working from the corporate side and the hospital system side, and arming them and preparing them to make asks about advocacy and our efforts. I know that is something Lenora reiterated today, and I did present again to all of the staff with specific goals. So we're going to put actual numbers behind it, like recruiting an advocate in District 6 and 8, where we had vacancies going into Leadership Summit and Lobby Day, and the ACS colleagues coming forward with maybe any connections that they have in those two districts. So again, even outside of financials, our ACS colleagues know what our strategy and goals are for next year, and I think we're going to see continued support across that, for just more amplified success.
Sarah, I have
Yeah.
a question. How did Ohio fare in the silent auction division?
Yeah, so I don't know in comparison to other states, but I am really proud of the response that we had for, um, especially, I know I said this to Pam in person, but Pam's two quilts that she um, presented forward from her friend that handmade those, raised $700 alone for us. So one went for 500 and one went for 200. And so Pam's two quilts, again, was $700. The bag that was handmade, from that same lovely friend and donor went for 40, and then Julie's Pride basket went for 70. So I don't know where that puts us in comparison again to what some of the other states raised, but I know overall that's what our 4 items brought in, and so we have a lot to celebrate there too, kind of just an additional amount of money to come in our bucket of where we are going to land by the end of the year. And we are going into strides season. So I know many of you have expressed interest in going to our strides events across the state. When Leo is back next week, he and I are going to connect on what we want our strategy to be as far as any kind of actionable QR codes that we want to take to our strides events. I think we are going to look at it at an approach of each of the events kind of uniquely. If we have, for example, in Cincinnati right now, we have so much happening with that local flavor ordinance, same with Cleveland. So we may want to take an approach specifically at the Cleveland and Cincinnati events that would be different than perhaps Dayton. So Leo and I are going to connect next week to prepare anyone that is interested in going to any of our Strides events. Please reach out and let me know. I know Julie will be at Dayton. Pam Mangus, I believe you will be at the Canton Akron event.
And
I know,
Cleveland.
and Cleveland, fantastic. I know that we'll have Leah and Jody attending Cincinnati, has a Paint the Square Pink plus their actual day of walk. And we also have a Columbus event for any of our Columbus friends that are interested in attending that one. Please reach out and let me know. Their date is the last weekend of October. It's the 28th this year, which is different than last year for Columbus. So if anyone is interested in going to Columbus's event, that is a different date than usual. But also any of those. So Cleveland, Canton, Akron, Dayton, Columbus, and Cincinnati, please just shoot me an email if anyone is interested, and we'll make sure that we have a list compiled of who's going to all attend together, and I can make sure you've got all the resources that you need as we get ready to go into those events in the next couple of weeks.
Sarah, would you mind possibly making a list of suggested things to take with you? Like, I wouldn't know to try and find a tablecloth. I wouldn't, for my first event, I wouldn't know to print off why join ACS can, a petition or those kinds of things. Could we kind of put our heads together and put out a list for everyone that could help them at those events?
Absolutely. Yeah, once everyone shares their interest, we can compile that list of who those people are that want to attend each event, and we'll make sure you have everything that you need. Those are the big things that I had. I want to make sure if anyone has questions as we're gearing up for October and those Strides events. I definitely want to emphasize the policy forum again. I know that we had sent some initial emails and posted to social about that coming up on October 18th. If you are hoping to join us and travel for that event at the State House and haven't registered, please do. But also just sharing that out with all of your networks and advocates. When Leo and I checked the registration today, we were up to 57 people registered, but definitely want to keep adding to that registration. And I will add that our hope and excitement, we can't make any promises, but I do want to land on one final announcement, and that is that Governor DeWine was awarded an award at Leadership Summit and Lobby Day, the National Distinguished Advocacy Award, or NDAA for short, is a lawmaker award that's given out again for our lawmakers that support our efforts so closely. And Leo had nominated Governor DeWine, and he was selected to receive that award. He sadly could not join us in DC. Because of a lot of the redistricting things that are happening right now across the state house. But then I also saw, sadly, on social media that he had COVID. So he wouldn't have been able to come anyways, for anyone that maybe didn't see that, which is unfortunate. But our hope is we could have him attend in person at the policy forum. So that is on his calendar right now. The team can't guarantee that he'll be there in person. Of course, a lot can come up in the next almost month before that, but he does hope to be able to come. If not, he has recorded a video that we will play, and we'll make sure to get that award to him and present it in person. But even more reason maybe to try to come to the policy forum, because that will be part of the program and hopefully getting to present that to him in person. So something to amplify when you're inviting folks to hopefully join us for that.
Excuse me, Sarah?
Pam?
I'm assuming that Leo's going to handle this the same as last year, that invites will go out to all our state lawmakers through him. But
Absolutely.
can
But
we
I
still
do,
go ahead and contact our lawmakers to try and nudge them along?
yeah, I do want to amplify that. Absolutely. So they have received one initial invite so far. Our lobbying group on behalf of Leo sent that since he's been out. But he does intend on sending a follow-up. He said in the report today there were maybe five lawmakers and staff that stood out to him when he was looking at the registration report. So we definitely don't have a ton right now that are signed up to attend. And so I would absolutely encourage all of you where you have really strong relationships with your state reps and senators to invite them to join us. And again, they'll kind of get invites again from Leo, but I think it coming from you all as volunteers as well would really help. So I say yes, go ahead and make sure they know of the date and the info, and that we'll be discussing access to care and hopefully also presenting an award to Governor DeWine that day. Great question. Any other thoughts or questions from the team? I might be able to give you a few minutes back, but as we're prepping going into October with, again, the forum and a lot of events in the community still coming off a lot of success from Leadership Summit and Lobby Day, are there any questions or things you're all working on that you want to share with the group?
I have one more thing. Are we going to try to like get some summaries together or whatever of the breakout sessions we attended? I went to one on tobacco that was fantastic. They went much too fast. I have scribbled notes and photos of the screens. And one of the people there said I could email her and get a copy of the slideshow. So I'm hoping that they will follow through with that. They don't always. So I know, who was it? Carrie, are you the one who sent me the photo when I asked for that setup of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Did
really
you?
eye-opening
Yeah.
to see that photo Carrie took of all the vape products and flavored
Yeah.
products.
See, they
I
tore it down and
agree.
started passing those things around. And I think that took some people's interest. So they were looking at this instead of like listening to what was going on. I was trying to do it all. Didn't
Sure.
really work well.
No,
But
I
were you
think
thinking
that's
of doing something
valuable.
like that?
I would
So we
love
get to
that.
know the other, what the other breakouts were like too?
Yeah, I would love, that's something I can email our crew that was in attendance as a follow-up and just say, if you have some summary notes of your breakouts, definitely we could come together and then share that with everyone across our Google Drive. So I think that's a really great idea, and we'll make sure to get that rolling and get that across to everybody because I do think we had some fantastic topics that were covered, and we did have a variety of attendance from our group as far as people going to different breakouts. So we can get that to everyone as key takeaways and information that can support all of us across the state. Great suggestion, Pam. Thanks. Robin?
Hi, everybody. Sounds like you had an incredible leadership summit and lobby day, so props, congratulations to you all. Unrelated mostly to, I think, what we're talking about, I've aligned with one of the city council members for a separate project, and I actually met with him at City Hall today. He happens to be on the health committee, and I said, hey, you know what, I want to talk to you about flavor ban. So we had a really great conversation about where it is right now. The chair of the health committee has reintroduced it, and it's stalling, and he was like, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But I just wanted to put it out there that I now have this connection with somebody who is on the health committee and can very closely follow this in Cleveland. So if there's anything in particular that you're looking for or that you need out of the Cleveland flavor ban, let me know, and I can work with him on that.
Absolutely. That's huge to hear. I will say that um, I know I gave just a very brief update in the last email, not a ton of detail, but we did have someone testify last Monday in front of the committee. And I know that there's an upcoming luncheon on October 2nd. So next Monday, they're doing a faith leaders luncheon from our coalition. So right now, I think everyone's kind of building that local presence and relationships to be able to take that to the health committee because it has slightly stalled, like you said, Robin. And so I think building from that local standpoint is what everyone is kind of trying to do. So collecting stories, having them testify on Mondays before city council. If anyone is interested in testifying, you know, Robin, I had thought of you and actually was going to reach out because I know you have a pretty strong local tobacco story that would resonate. And I think that's kind of what we need to be thinking right now is just storytellers building that local presence, and then they're going to be presenting that and asking them to bring it to a vote. So I think let's continue to think on that term, who we might know that can testify, and building some of that local presence in our Cleveland city limits. Any other things you guys are working on? And we can touch base offline. Anyone, if you need some follow up, and hopefully we'll have some things to be able to share with the whole team too, coming from Leadership Summit and Lamy Day.
I'm still working on my semi-creative follow-up to Windstrip, with the whole skyline thing.
Yeah.
So, I could use a little help on making sure that that verbiage is right because it's like I want it to be like kind of funny but serious at the same time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Send it my way. Yeah, we can all help each other with any lawmaker outreach that we're working on. If anyone wants feedback or idea sharing, we can work on that. So definitely send it my way. Well, thank you all. Again, if you're interested in attending any of the upcoming Strides events, please reach out and let me know so I can kind of build our lists of who's going to be going to all of those in each market and making sure you have the supplies you need. Thank you for your help amplifying the policy forum invite, and really looking forward to being able to share hopefully some more updates on copay accumulator, and more at the state level too when Leo is back next week. Appreciate your time. Happy
I guess I
Monday.
have one more question.
Yeah, Pam.
How close do the state staffers keep in touch with our state lawmakers since our state lawmakers aren't necessarily in the state house?
If
So
they're
should
not
we be
working right
writing
now,
to them at home? Or we don't have their email address at home, but
that's a really great point. Yeah, with them not necessarily coming in, you know, with their work emails, I know that the staffers are present. So I would say if you have staff contacts through your offices too, that you might actually get better response there, to pass along invites and such to your state lawmakers.
okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, so any of those staff connections you have may be a better strategy right now. Or any local offices, in district offices, things like that. Yeah, great thought, great question. Appreciate everyone, and we'll keep in touch. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.